Good morning and welcome to the Beef and Barnzy Show. And as usual, I am joined by internet personality, PBA, and Weber Cup titleist. Too many times on that Weber Cup thing for sure. Stu Williams, as he joins me once again with the personality part of the show.
So you're bringing the information. I'm bringing the. I'm the clown.
You're bringing all the talent. I'm telling you.
I'm the court gesture. Court jester, even.
I'm resting on yesterday's achievements at the moment, so we're just going with that.
I'm just trying to share this to my fan base, and then we'll be ready to go. Right. So yeah. So today's show, we are going to break down. We're going to do it just with Chris, I think, but we're going to break down the process of how we try to figure out two majors at the same time with two different sets of rules. And yep, there you go. Thanks, Clint. Yeah, two different sets of rules, 5 different patterns between them. And yeah, what we're gonna do to get there, and how that's gonna work. So what do you want to start off with, Chris? What's the first piece that you want to start off with? You want to start off with balls, or do you want to start off with stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this, getting prepped for a couple of weeks, especially on the road. Out at the stadium, we transported balls, but not big bags, so you don't have – for a guy like me who's very routine-oriented and likes things in a certain place, things have to change a little bit. But one of the first things I have to do is I have to have – this bag has to have everything. And so yesterday I spent a bunch of time cutting tape. I take a bunch of I use the Nakashima Vice tape. I think they call it TT25. Then I taper it on the end so I can tape my fingers. And I got enough pre-cut pieces to last me for, basically the next month. Little screwdriver in case you have issues with tape and grips and all that. Scissors to cut it. A Sharpie for no apparent reason whatsoever, because we'll have no fans and no people in there at all.
It's just when he drills so many new balls, he needs a new bag. So it's for the card.
There we go. Chapstick, when that one's been around for a while. Plenty of tape. I use the Vice Gray tape, the slickest one they have. It's the closest to the old stuff. I'll have to figure out how to get that out there. I'll sneak that in my bowling bag, but that's my double knife.
You probably have the same issue with your scissors, though.
Scissors are okay now, actually, because they're small. I don't know why, but they are. But most of this bag, if I get to where I get to probably 5 balls and take out there or less, then I would just go in a bowling bag. But lots of thumbs. I'll have at least 6 thumbs total. Imperative for this week. Opti Plus anti-fog wipes for my glasses.
Hello, Gotchel says that he's got the cool hookup with glasses stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, yep. Everybody does until they don't. So
yeah, remember when we bought that cat poop stuff? That it was called whatever it was called.
Yeah, cat crap.
Yeah,
it was well named because that's exactly how well it did. It just smeared my glasses. And it worked like crap. So, and then, for that in-between snap.
Give me 1 second.
Yeah. So, mints, because you can't have bad breath, especially when you're breathing in your own mask for 3 hours at a time. So, that's kind of, to begin with, that's what I do, as well as a glasses wipe. So, and never forget your own glue. I prefer the gel version because it doesn't gum up as bad in your bag, and it's much less likely with this squeezable one to end up everywhere inside your accessory case and make you have to do it again. So, and all of that fits into here. So it's not so bad. But yes, like Clint says, you're going to need a separate backpack for all this. Now, a lot of guys do carry a backpack, and for that week, if I don't have a big bag out there, that's what I would do. and carry my shoes, my accessories, and all that extra stuff, Abralon, all those kind of things in a backpack. So, but that's how that would work. And, I know it's a lot of stuff and it takes a little bit of time, but that's part of my prep is making sure all that stuff is there and handy and I'm not scrambling around. And in Reno, that is a painful thing to do because the locker room is around, as everyone knows, the Bulls Nationals, around the back. And it's a 5-minute trip and a dead run. So, and if you're on the low end, it's way more than that. So, that's the first thing I do. And that's part of the prep. And then we took balls out there. So there's 9 balls out there from Florida. And the Masters, you get pretty much what you want, what you can carry. And then the U.S. Open is 10. And so, but in general, it's hard to take more than 8 out there. I think the Masters, based off recent information, if I'm understanding right, we're going to bowl on a lot of fresh. And we're not really even going to much breakdown. It's going to be bowling a fresh pair with practice, then bowling a fresh pair with no practice.
I believe we get to practice on the first 2 pairs that we have because they're next to each other.
Oh, okay, so the open practice session is actually
both pairs that you bowl your first 2 games on. I believe that's one rumor I've heard.
Okay.
Which would make sense because kind of it would make the lanes have a little chance, and it's also 5 on a pair. So that would give you a little bit more practice by having 2 pairs.
For sure.
Just quickly what Chris is talking about. If you imagine, we're going to be using every other pair, and then every other game you switch to the other set of lanes. So
you're not exactly flying across the building.
Game 1, you're going to bowl, game 1, you're going to bowl on fresh, and game 2, you're going to bowl on fresh. And then game 3, you're going to bowl on the pair that you bowled your first game on, not the same pair, but the set of lanes that were bowled the first game. And then game 4, we'll be back to the second pair. And then game 5. So basically game 5, we'll have 2 games on it.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's definitely going to be interesting. It's definitely skewing my thoughts on what sort of balls I should take. High Road Pearl probably isn't going to make the trip.
And that's
smooth, big forward balls are going to be the things that you want, I would think. I think that having an extra urethane ball isn't going to hurt anybody's feelings. Yay. I dug out my Alpha Crux and redid the grip on that one. I'm going to have a practice with that today. If that looks even close, I'll probably bring that with me. X1 is probably going to be one I like. Reality. So some of those type of balls, maybe Axioms, smooth balls, is going to be the case for the Masters. But then you've got the US Open, which is playing on almost the exact opposite scenario. We've got 4 different patterns, 8 games a block. That doesn't mean she can't send cookies, though.
Well, as much as I enjoy her cookies, I enjoy her as well. So it's great when she's around. And my new belt thanks you for not being strained.
So, how seriously do you take it in your heyday, shall we say? Maybe not this year for me and you, but like, how seriously do you take the seeding at the Masters? Is it more about kind of for you seeing a couple of different shapes? You know, obviously your main goal is to make the top 64, but right, assuming that you bowl pretty good the first 2 blocks, are you really trying to get that top 10 seed in and just keep that momentum going? Or are you going to have a look at a couple of different options of things that you might think might have a chance that you haven't really got to get to?
I always believed in karma, so I didn't believe in completely not paying attention to getting my best score possible. But I would start with what I thought was best. But I always did mix in more shots with the balls that I thought were going to be possibles for match play, especially that last cashers round when it was 5-5 and you cut the cashers. That round there, especially, I was treating that round on as if that was a match, and so the balls I thought were going to be in play got a look in practice and possibly even started. Just might be on a short leash, because I didn't want to give up 5 or 10 spots and end up in the middle of the bracket necessarily if I was bowling well, but leading didn't really matter much. So I have a few times, but those were the years where it didn't seem like no matter what I did, everything worked. So,
yeah, like for me, I feel like when I've bowled well at the Masters, and in general, that had been most times. I missed the cut last time in Vegas, and I think that was the first time I missed the cut in the Masters in about 10 years. I felt like for me, the practice day was really about trying to find the window that I liked, whether that being kind of straighter or knowing that I was really just waiting for the lane to break down a little bit and wanting. So really that comes down to whether we're playing in a new build or we're playing in a place that has a decent track. Because if we're playing in a place that has a decent track in the lane, then you kind of know what you're going to do. And also in the past, we've had a burn squad. So you kind of knew deep down that you were looking at it in your mind and you were like, well, I only really need a solution. Like if the track was good, like it picked up pretty good in the track, you kind of knew that the 5 games on the burn were going to be what they were going to be. They were probably going to be pretty easy.
Yeah.
And that you're going to have at least 2 games of the other 2 blocks that were like that. So you kind of had 9 games out of your 15 that you were like, you knew you were going to be playing third arrow or left.
Yeah.
But it definitely changes a lot now because we're literally going to have no games where you're going to want to really, you're going to be able to open up the lane, I would think.
Yeah.
It's all going to be about keeping it in front of you.
Well, it changes a lot of things, like yesterday and how I practiced and the things I'm practicing on and trying to. It's way less about moving the left gutter and manipulating that part. And so, well, speaking of that, actually, during my practice session, I sent off some videos to one of our sponsors to get a little help in the middle of that. And with that, let's hear from him for just a second.
Mark Baker here. Are you struggling with your game? Do you need another set of eyes? Is there that one thing in your game you just can't fix? Please let me help you. Go to markbakerbowling.com, click on virtual lessons, and follow the 3 easy steps. Remember, you can live anywhere in the world, and with virtual lessons, I can help you. Look forward to seeing your videos. Thank you.
I do feel like the next time I see Baker, if he doesn't say, and you can be anywhere in the world, I'm going to be really disappointed.
He did comment after the last show that he had a great time listening to Rob Stone and Tom. And he's always enjoyed Tom for sure. That's
one of his guys on the Twitter.
And he did help me, but like you said, how we're practicing the stuff for the Masters specifically, you're going to skew the lineup towards balls that are going to roll a little sooner. Even in the matches there, you're going to get on burn, but I'm not sure you ever bowl there on a pair that has 2 matches on it. And so,
well, it's going to be interesting the way they're going to do that because they've got all the lanes, but of course, it isn't going to help them at all because
it's going to be
use every other lane.
Yeah, you're going to treat it like a smaller center, so you're only going to have half the bracket on at a time.
Yeah, so I don't quite know how that's going to go down. I'm sure that we should have had Rob Gottschall on this morning, and he could have explained all of these things to us. That would have been well done. Note to self, good decision. But But yeah, I feel like the only thing really in my mind that you should prepare for with the Masters is just to understand what you want to do in qualifying, because the matches, like, for example, if I end up drawing you, I'm going to play the lanes differently to if I end up drawing EJ Tackett. Like, where I feel like my advantage might be is going to be in a completely different part of the lane against you as it is to EJ Tackett or, you know, Tommy Jones or whoever. So that makes it really difficult to want to worry about the matches until you kind of have an idea of the bracket. And also you kind of go around along the week, and there'll be some weeks where, you know, you feel like, oh my God, I only have to worry about the burn matches. Like when we bowled in the Masters in Syracuse, I maintain if the whole tournament had been on fresh, I almost couldn't lose, because whatever I did was just, it was just perfect for the fresh. And I had a pretty decent reaction when they broke down, but more than one person in the building had a pretty decent reaction when they broke down. And it felt like the first game, I was the chosen one. They just decided that week, bless you, my child, you can have it. And that's the thing. So it really does depend on what you see on the lanes. And like I say, for me, the main focus is going to be getting a good understanding of what my urethane ball does, and when I see the sign to need to get out of it, and being open to maybe doing the thing that I hate doing in a block, which is go back to it. Because if you think about the way it is and like who you follow, and, you know, if you go on one pair and you know, your first two pairs, you're going to have a pretty good idea of what you're doing, like on the lanes, because you've got your group and you can see them. But I imagine the way it's going to work is like, and this is what's going to be a little shitty about it, but I imagine that we're going to go from these two lanes, and then we're going to move to a group of another two pairs of lanes.
Yeah, I would guess just move half the building, give or take. And
yeah, but what I'm saying is right. So like, say you're on the pair I move to, I will get both of your first two pairs.
Right.
Now, maybe they'll have another solution around that. I don't know. But I'm just saying that, like, I mean, we've got 6 hours in between squads, so I'm pretty sure we can pretty much do whatever we want and we'll still be on time. Yeeks.
Yeah. I want to address this. This is obviously something I get asked a lot. When I first went on tour, I wasn't certainly one of the first college players, but I was in the smallish, the minority at the time, of guys who went to college first. Son is a high school senior, 200 plus average bowler, wants to be a pro bowler. Would you recommend him bowl in college or go get a PBA card? Almost 100% go to college and get some experience there. You can do both. Lots of the guys in college go and bowl regionals. As it is, several of them, when they can, in a post-COVID world, they'll be able to probably bowl some of the PBA tournaments as well. I guess you can't bowl the national stops now. Now you have to have a PBA card. But unless you're a phenom at 18, and a few of the guys have done it lately, but other than Anthony Simonson, you know, it didn't work out that great for Cameron to skip college and come out on tour. And now he's kind of got to start over a little bit. And so give college a go. You get around, you know, get to a program with a lot of other good bowlers. I think that helps people improve the fastest of anything, being in that environment. And then and see where you're at. Bowl some regionals before you go jumping in, you know, bowl regionals as a guest and get an idea there where there's going to be possibly a handful of guys that bowl on tour versus trying to get right out on tour at the moment. That would be my 2 cents.
Mark says, I know I'm not the one you're asking. I am a storm starter, but college is definitely to get the experience of a lifetime and challenging patterns that will help in transitions to PBA if he wants to go that route. I'll play devil's advocate. I think that unless it really depends. Like, I don't think that the college route is necessarily anything that's going to make it any easier to be a professional bowler. I think that the college route gives you an option if professional bowling isn't the right option for you. But the people who are saying that it's a good stepping stone or something that will help you in professional bowling, it won't. The thing that will help you in my mind, the thing that will help you in professional bowling is bowling professional events. And that 2 years you give up bowling in college, if all you're interested in is bowling, I think will put you behind if you'd have just bowled 2 years. It's a bit like doing an apprenticeship as opposed to like the guy who goes from school straight into that job. Yeah, it sucks for those 2 years because you're going to get paid less when you first start. But after those 2 years, you're going to be ahead of a lot of the guys who have a degree because you've got the on-the-job experience and you understand it in like a trade rather than necessarily something else. So that's the answer. The college answer is correct in that it gives you more options in life.
Yes.
If you're talking strictly, you're going to be a professional bowler, the sooner you get out on the professional tour, the better for your attempts at being a better bowler in my experience and in my mind. But you've got to, that's a pretty big gamble. You've got to weigh up the rest of your life as well. So that's why a lot of people say that college is a better option, but in my mind, it doesn't necessarily help you to be a better bowler. It might help you be a better person and understand how to live your life. There's no doubt about that. Getting away from mom and dad and going to college and experiencing things that you would never experience at home. What do you do when the pipe starts leaking in the middle of the night or something? And just life experiences that you'd have somebody else sort for you. They prepare you better. Like the first call, of course, is to mom and dad.
Yeah.
But still, that's my take on it.
Yeah. Jeff Lewis, I'm 45 and average 200. Should I wait for the senior PBA tour instead of going for the PBA tours? Well, unless you're Tom Doherty, probably so. 40, it would be tough. Like I said, bowl regionals, see where you're at there. Right now, there's not a lot of things you can bowl, to be honest.
To be honest, unless you're in a region and you're like really contending for the top 5 each time, you've got no reason to be on the PBA tour. Like, that's how I feel. I come 7th every time, and I feel like I shouldn't be out there. I mean, to put in perspective, like Anthony Lavery is bowling fantastic in the region.
Yeah.
And
Chapman was our player of the year.
Yeah.
And
we're in a pretty decent region. Like, it's not like, we're full of scrubs. And the only person in our region who's really, there's probably 2 of them right now who are really threatening to be in the top 20, and that's Maldonado and Frankie.
Yeah. Chapman 50s. I am about 40 spots lower than I've ever been. And again, it's only 2 tournaments, but it's 60% of the season. So, you need to be able to contend. At least contend to win regionals from time to time. That's not saying you have to be in the top 5 every time, but at some point you have to be able to bowl a block that keeps up with the best players in the region if you're going to think about coming out. Because guys on tour take the top 3 in every region, and there's, that's what makes up the top 20 on tour.
Yeah, Jeff, in North Florida, it doesn't really make any difference. You've got Dick Allen, you've got Kyle Troop, you've got Tommy Jones, you've got Tom Doherty, like all in that region. Unless you can somewhat get close to those guys.
Right. You got a good base of what the tour looks like there. You got a bunch of guys that compete in the top 20. If you're anywhere near those guys, then you're in the conversation.
And if you're not, you got your answer.
Yeah, you know what you need to work on and the level you need to get to. It gets tougher sometimes out in the West when there's not as many top 20 guys out there, and Jacob's on the left, so that's a different bar entirely. Anyway, so. Yeah, Roy, if you're a 200 average bowler, ask them at the PBA Tour. If that's on a league pattern, 200 plus isn't really the bar.
Let's put it in perspective. I
But-
average for basically my life, I average over 240 in league, and it's not going very well for me on the PBA Tour.
I'm not a league bowler, but I'm in the 230 range generally.
Yeah, that's just you're just not as dedicated to it as me.
I've got more games in league this year. It's COVID from that standpoint has been awesome. I'm going to have about 72 games in league and have paid 0 league fees because I'm just a sub every week.
But question is there any chance you can get some handicap for the trio?
I actually, the last series, coming back to the World Series, I did not show up with the A game and put a little 580 on them and drop my average down to about 225. So I'm going to get a couple pins. So,
and I'd have no problem giving them to you.
Yeah, Louisville, I struggle to carry there about as much as I do at Tampa, and so yeah.
Alan Riley, you bowl league.
Yeah, with his team. He was the team I shot 570 with. You're welcome. Well, there's that. If I bowled at North Rock, I think I have one league set at North Rock. I did shoot 770 that night.
I bowled 690 with a 279. But I did hit Kegler's. Let's go.
That sounds like Ryan. He said post bowl, shot 270 for 670, and then he shot 670 again with a 250 or 60 start.
Yeah, Tina says that I've never Highland isn't even one of the places I've averaged the most. Back up off me, woman. I was a way better league bowler in Phoenix. If I'd have realized I was going to bowl this many games this year, I'd have actually put some dedication into trying to get the number a little higher, because I feel like I could have snapped off Texas State average this year pretty easily. I mean, I see the number. I'm kind of disappointed. I'm embarrassed for the state when 242 is winning.
Well, nobody bowls at university anymore in league. So
yeah, but they bowl in Houston. I mean, the scores in Houston are pretty high, but
Jimmy, I love you. I made for those of you who can't read it, I made the 210 spare once. Do you think I could beat Norm Duke in a spare shooting contest? Yeah.
All right. So let's transition into the US Open.
Yes, sir.
We know that we're going to have 4 patterns. We're pretty sure that one of them is going to be 37 feet. We're pretty sure that one of them is going to be about 44 feet, 45 feet. And then there's probably going to be 2 in between. That seems to be the way it's gone about the last three times. So I've got a spreadsheet here that I will add to the stream right now. Barnzy's US Open Arsenal. So talk us through the process of how you come up with your arsenal and your idea about how you get there. And, it doesn't necessarily have to be too letting in on state secrets, but kind of just the process that you'll go through and how much you will use the practice session to determine how many spots in your arsenal, so to speak.
Well, and I have it broke down just like that. So as we've talked about before, I have 2 basically heavy oil balls, 2 medium oil balls, and a couple of dry lane balls. And generally, there's a smooth or a control one and an angular one in each of those categories. And so I'm going to start with the six balls that I kind of my base in that range that I'm going to go with. And the aspect is my heavy control ball. And then my reality is kind of my heavier angular ball.
Okay.
And that is heavy oil balls, generally speaking, are not angular anyway, but it certainly has more shape in it than the aspect does. So
so it's almost like I paid this guy. Carl, do you like the multiple pattern setup or the old 40-foot pattern? I despise the multiple pattern setup for the US Open. Despise it. I think it's dumb. I think it takes away from the history of the tournament. Not necessarily it being difficult. I just think that that's the World Series. So anyway,
and in general, this is one of the few things Stu and I agree on. I don't know if this is rooming together for a while has ruined this thing or not, but now that I've seen somebody put enough oil in the lane to hold up, just because they say they can't doesn't, or it won't work. I would like to see it tried. And that at this point, we roll on so many different tournaments that have multiple patterns. Bowling in one pattern for a tournament is its own identity again.
yeah. It was weird at the. How weird was it at the TOC when we just kept bowling on the same pattern?
You're like, oh my God, I can make adjustments. I can throw a ball, and it's actually for this.
Oh my God, they're not the same 2 blocks running. Why did he change them? And I swear to God, the guys who were saying that, I think it's just because they've never played many tournaments where it's the same pattern day after day.
They were all under 30. Like, this happens all the time. The same pattern doesn't play exactly the same.
Yeah.
Anyway, between not being able to strip off all the oil and then the different strategies of how players attack them, that was always part of the game. And made it interesting. I would love to see a 50 mils and back to a pattern, that was similar to what it was before. And the challenge is really chasing back and forth across the center and some of those things. But
okay, let's get back to where we were at.
Your benchmark ball, medium control ball, phase 2. Kind of medium angular ball, Zen. A dry angular ball, Flux, and that's a 15-pounder, but doesn't matter. IQ Emerald is 6, and then a spare ball is my 10th ball.
Okay.
But that doesn't matter.
No, it does.
So,
that's pretty important. I think a lot of guys could. For me, if I've got 10, I've got 6, I've got 5. Like all of those options for me personally, the spare ball's coming. But 10, like if you can't find a solution with 9, 10th one's probably pretty unlikely to be the one.
Well, and that's how I look at it from here. From here on, these are all like 10%ers and maybe a little bit more, but they're all nichier balls. When they work great, but they're not necessarily balls that work all the time.
No, Stanley, the regular Flux.
Yeah, the regular Flux. For me,
it's actually a little shiny, the one you use, isn't it? In that case?
It is. Yeah, the one I use is shiny. And that the solid one continued more for me, where the pearl was sharper, but it also locked up and went forward faster, which is not what I was looking for. So then the next ball is depending on practice. And this is where we get to kind of the front to back. How much ball is in the front? Is it too slow? So I have a DCT, a new one. You'll be proud of me. A new DCT and or a UFO would be especially for the Masters, would be another ball skewed towards bowling so much on the fresh. And since Reno is so much better surface than what we bowled on recently, one of these 2 balls will almost certainly be part of the U.S. Open arsenal.
Given how bowling is right now, I'm thinking that ball 9 in the arsenal is probably going to be a booyah.
Down here at the bottom, I have a 2-inch ordnance, a booyah, or a hustle ink.
Well, I feel like,
but yeah,
it's definitely going to be in, and then it's going to really come down to those other 2. I would think.
Yeah, and so DCT UFO is an option. I do have it pretty well covered up there with reality and aspect are pretty early, and then you add in a booyah as well. For the Masters, since we're on the fresh all the time, I'll definitely have one of these other ones kind of in the regular rotation. Yeah. For the U.S. Open, where you won't be on that nearly as much, then the last 3 balls that are in kind of play there are Rubicon, the UC Rubicon 2, or the High Road Pearl. Or the High Road Pearl is mostly a ball for take advantage of easier patterns. That is generally not what you see at the U.S. Open or the Masters necessarily. So that's a really niche ball that probably won't be in play. the Rubicon or UC2, both is the same core. They're both drilled the same. One is basically for, a good surface and more volume, and the other one's for drier lanes. I think the UC2 looked great out in Florida on those older surfaces. I would anticipate probably adding in the Rubicon. And if you do the Rubicon, then I don't do the DCT UFO kind of thing. So that's kind of how I see it breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say to you looking at this, if you ended up in this scenario, you would have quite a few asymmetrical balls. Is that something that factors in when you kind of come up to you kind of get down to your number, and then you look at it and you're like, holy shit, I've got 6 asymmetrical balls or whatever. Does that enter into your thought process much?
A little bit. I skew towards symmetrical, and the harder they are, the more symmetrical balls I want. The DCT kind of thing doesn't really act like one.
Yeah.
And the UFO with surface on it also ends up being a lot more. But I have aspect, reality continues for me pretty good. Then you have phase 2 Zen, IQ Emerald. Those are all symmetrical, along with the Booyah, the Ordnance. And so most of the time for me, because I skewed so heavily towards symmetrical, most of the time I need to add some asym balls to my arsenal. One of the things about expanding the line is I have more options. And so I found a few more asymmetrical balls that I actually like, which hasn't been the case for me for a long time. And whether that's a factor of age or what we're bowling on, or the fact that just there's some better asym balls. So instead of just having one with the flux, it's kind of been my main one, or a DCT, which is just to lock it up and go straighter with.
Mm-hmm.
I have some balls that I really like to shape it with that are asym. And
so real quick, Jacob obviously wasn't hearing me a little earlier. Take the spare ball out and add the ordnance and use the urethane as a spare ball. Yeah, but we're bowling 32 games. Assuming the scoring pace is going to be low, that means you're going to be using your plastic ball at least 6 times a game. There is no way that any reactive ball you're going to use that many shots over the 4 patterns.
Yeah, when we bowled the World Bowling Tour, and you knew that you were going to bowl on basically 38 to 41 feet, and there was going to be some oil in the middle of the lane, lots of times I took a ball that was a weaker drilled, kind of like the Emerald, something along those lines. It didn't flare a lot, or I didn't really take urethane a lot over there because in general, Europe, not as much of it got thrown at that time. But I would take a ball like that and I could throw it straight enough and it's fine. But if you're going to bowl like the US Open, there probably is going to be a really short pattern. You have a ball, my urethane ball has 500 on it. It's not going that straight if there's actually 30 feet of friction.
And that's another thing to take into consideration. If you do that, your urethane ball is going to shine up faster as well, because your ball doesn't take into consideration, hey, I only shine up on strike shots. So if you think about how quickly a urethane ball goes out of, comes out of play sometimes because it shines up. Well, now by using it on spare shots, you're making it come out twice as quick because you're using it for those extra shots. So yeah, that's with 10 balls. If it was only 6, I'd completely agree with you, Jacob. But with 10, I mean,
and I've done it the other way as well. But because, like Stu said, the scoring pace is generally fairly low, you're going to throw your spare ball 4 to 6 times a game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And you just can't afford – your spare game has to be on point because there's going to be a lot of pressure on not only leading spares, but you're leaving 2, 3, and 4 pin spares. You just get so many more of those to where you have to make the 3, 6, 10 and the bucket and the washout and the 2, 10. And you can literally make up easily 100 pins by a solid spare game that day. And so, yeah, one of the balls that I don't have in there that I did take out, a C4, that is actually – that's good. Hybrids, I'm not into that whole thing. It just
– quick or slow?
Yeah. I mean, I take I'm about surfaces. So the aspect and the reality are going to be in the 500, 1,000 range. The phase two is 2,000. The Zen is out of the box, which is basically like a 1,500 in polish.
All right, let's just put that in perspective, just for the people at home, right? If I took Chris's Arsenal and replaced the reality with an Omega Crux, and I took his IQ Emerald and replaced it with a High Road, would you feel more comfortable about that? He'd have two hybrids in there. But to be fair, that wouldn't make any difference to his overall Arsenal being more versatile. You would take out one kind of slow big ball in the reality and replace it with one marginally quicker ball in the Omega Crux. And then you take out his quick medium to dry lane ball in the Emerald and replace it with another quick medium ball. Like, yeah. So, I mean, I've never really seen where I've been bowling and gone, oh my God, everybody in the field's using hybrid balls. What was I thinking using a quick pull ball? Not seen that.
No, it's way more. I think how guys look at it on tour is balls are either quick, medium, or slow response.
Yeah.
And you adjust up the balls that Stu sees as being quick or medium, and the balls I see, they're probably going to be different balls, but Pearl or hybrid doesn't have so much to do with it as far as not very much surface on them, polish on them, and then you just move it around. Like say, the Mega Crux for him is very much, that fits in that mold for him very well. And we all have balls that are like that, but I don't make the Respect was a hybrid ball back in the day, but that didn't really matter. If I had surface on it, it was a heavier angular ball, and if it was shiny out of the box, it became a medium ball for me. I don't know. It just is what it is. So I just want to see the categories. I'm not so worried about the marking material.
Okay. Real quick. Stanley says solids are more versatile. Versatile balls are more versatile. It really depends. Like for me, I really like the phase two, right? I can use the phase two in a lot of different patterns, but the idle for me, if I took an out of box idle and out of box phase two, I'd be able to use the phase two way more often. So that makes it more versatile because I can use it more often. However, there is no way I can change the reaction of the phase two more than I can the idle with polish. If I take a dull out of box idle and then I take another one and just add polish to it, those two balls would be insanely different for me. But if I did that with a phase two, the gap wouldn't be anywhere near as big. So it really depends on the cover and the matchup and stuff like that. I mean, like you take other balls and you shine them. Like the UFO for me, that's one that I can make a pretty big. I feel like I make a pretty big difference with that. Like with shiny or dull, I feel like it quickens up quite a bit. Whereas I watched Simo ball with the reality, and he had a shiny one and a dull one, and obviously there was a difference, but it just looked like the shinier one was just a bit weaker. Like it was cleaner and it didn't hook quite as much. So and there isn't really any logic to it as to why that happens. Like it's not like I can pinpoint, we use that idle cover on other balls and it doesn't make anywhere near as much difference. But the matchup of the core and that cover and that color, maybe, I don't know. It just, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes being versatile is not always great if it never stands out as being the best. We've had balls over time that,
There you go. Simo says because the shinier one was just old. Yeah. No, I mean, all I'm saying is like there's just some balls that it makes a really big difference to, and there's some balls that it's just like, yeah, it's obviously different, but the gap isn't like, oh my God, different.
If I've learned from being with the BFFs, the one thing that never happens, balls don't get old. Not in that group.
There you go. New balls, mate.
They have no worries. They're on the plan with you already.
Simo ain't scared.
No, Simo ain't. Well, I mean, when you're making $350,000 a year, you can drill as many balls as you want. So
the thing is for me, I could drill as many balls as I wanted. I just can't justify the expense because it makes no difference. I can suck with the ones I have, or I can suck with one that I spend $45 to drill a new one. It really doesn't make that much difference.
To be fair, when things are going a little better, you weren't afraid to drill much.
No, I'm not afraid to drill it, but if I got as much difference out of it as Simo does, then I'd probably drill even more. But oh, here we go. This could be dangerous. Digging into the living room stash.
Yeah, it's a good thing you're not as old as me. You'd really find some. So.
Yeah. So here's a question that that comes up quite a lot, and I'll be interested because I know what my answer is, and I feel like my answer is probably going to be different to yours.
Okay.
When you're doing this, how much of this is like kind of the emotion of the balls you like, and how much of this is like these are the balls that fit together?
I got over the emotion thing. I've told this story before on here, but we went over to Qatar to bowl that tournament. Bowled enough of those World Bowling Tours, the Yen and what have you. 39 feet. Okay, I know about what that's going to be. The surface is a little worn. I'm just going to bring in, I bowl good with this one. I bowl good with this one. This one I like. And at the time, I believe it was a power swing, maybe something like that. That was my weakest ball, which would be firmly in the medium angular range. And we got there and we threw a couple of shots. And then we found out that 3 weeks prior that Qatar had won the most medals they'd ever won, and the lane machine had broke, and there was 13 mils of oil in the lane, plus the sand. I was in the 6th frame of game 1 the first time I threw my blue dot for score. Needless to say, that tournament didn't work out very well. So from then on, it doesn't matter. And then the second time I did was that exhibition event in Japan where they're trying to do that. And we've been in this center. I made the show throwing an eruption, the orange one. And I had to loft it and spin it to do that. I'm like, this place hooks. I don't need a lot of big end balls. Respect will be my biggest one. I cross with Dom. Dom throws the biggest surface ASIM snowball the whole time, beats me by about 200 in the 6 games. And the whole time I just couldn't get my ball to stand up quick enough to stay in the right zone. And so from that point on, no emotion. I can pick 6 balls that fit the 6 categories. And if you don't use 3 of them, then great. You're not supposed to. I don't need 3 balls to work at the same time. I just need one that will work on any time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm feeling like I've got to get more in that direction, but with the US Open, I find it really difficult to put in a ball that I don't particularly like just to fit the category. No,
and I have to work sometimes to find balls that fit the categories. And that's a lot of what
you necessarily don't like, but you don't necessarily have that trust in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
that's where it's difficult. Like, I feel like you're much more dispassionate over it. Like, one might say robotic over it. And you're just like, it doesn't make any sense. This is the ball. It's choose between these 2. I don't really like either of those 2 that much. Well, it doesn't matter. Man up.
Yeah.
So,
and I think we get stuck because of our environment. If I bowl only around here, and that's why I constantly have to go to. So, well, okay, what if? All right, I need something for that. Because right now, I have, whatever these 6 balls are, like, I would be completely screwed if we bowl on that. And so I try and do it that way. And sometimes you get, you still don't always hit. But since I started doing it, sometimes I wish I had a ball that was maybe a little better, but I don't get shut out. And
no, it makes perfect sense. And like with 6, with what you're talking about, it makes 100% sense when you've only got 6, because it's pretty easy to find 6 that you like.
Right. And then you just add in the 3 that match up to, like you said, all right, this Reno plays tight down lane. All right. So I need some, and it's cleaner in the front than a lot of the surfaces we're bowling on now. So I'll be able to be completely different balls than Tampa.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Simo's saying that the Victory Road Pearl might be making an appearance this week. I'm sure that the Grenade will be back.
Well, I mean, it's had such success. I can't imagine to see it again. There you go.
Oh, yeah.
AMF is not under the window of global anymore, so I don't believe Angle will be making an appearance. But I like where your head's at.
Tina's saying to anybody, drop her a DM, and if you stop by in Flugville the next 2 weeks when I'm gone, she wants some garage space back.
Simo's got to have a lightning storm somewhere around there he can throw out there. I mean, that got to be almost as useless as that roto grip grenade that he's been throwing down there.
To be fair, the grenade looked good on Cheetah in the qualifying.
To be fair, a lot of balls that Anthony throws looks good. I was around when that ball was around the first time. He wasn't that good then. I admire the fact that he makes it look that good.
But, Casey Matley says, is there any pressure at all to take the new releases? None that I've ever felt. That's one thing that Bill Chrisman is very much like Al Davis. Just win, baby.
Yeah, I've been through a fair amount of different bosses, and that theory goes back and forth. It's just win until you win with one that they can't sell, and then but Chrisman has been very consistent about that over the years. Global has never made any issues about that with me as well. I've been with some companies before where there was a show where Tim Chris in particular, back at Columbia 300, had to throw the newest ball, and it was in a place with old wood, and the newest ball was a big surfaced grinder, and he put a blistering 184 on them, with a flat 10 every shot. And I mean, Tim threw it 14 miles an hour anyway. It was a terrible situation for him, and it made the ball look terrible on TV, which is worse than not throwing it at all. So,
Scott Shearer says, got to raid that Storm showcase at the factory. I can tell you now that there isn't one guy on staff who has enough juice to take a ball out of that. That includes Belmo, Simo, Jesper, Pete Weber, Norm Duke. Nope. And to be honest, I don't know that many of those balls are actually 15.
Deacon might have been the last guy to get one out of there. So too soon. There's a reason we were throwing blue and black hammers and not grenades back then. That's a fact. So, what do we got? Can we speak on the time he interacted? Give me pointers. Yeah. Yes, he wanted to get some ideas for some versatility drills for me, and I've taken those to heart. I started using them unintentionally 3 times a game. So this is it. I can take this one if you want, or
this could almost be a show by itself.
Yeah, Scott, I think it's a good question. What lane characters are you looking for when to throw a polished ball versus a surface ball? The general theory is I want to throw as much surface as I can that doesn't hook and lose energy in the first 20 feet, because that will help it pick up in the mid lane and control the pocket. But if it's losing energy in the front half, then you have to use less polish or less surface. So the more surface I can use, the easier it follows transition, provided it goes through the pocket, through the pins and strikes. And the flat 10s and the 4 pins back to back are a pretty good indication that that's not the case, and you need to go to something that's a little bit cleaner to get through the front.
Try to focus on where your ball goes off the back of the lane as well. Mm-hmm. Like if you're seeing your ball consistently like dart to the right after it hits the head pin, like the head pin's 6 pounds, probably time to get out of that ball.
Like it did when that left the 10.
Yeah.
I'll let you. Here you go. What is your favorite ball you're currently throwing?
The X1.
Yeah, you throw that one all the time.
Yeah.
I have a feeling when we get, when we get to more volume, I think that reality, as much as the guy used already, we may end up seeing it a ton.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Out there, but
Um,
it isn't for every place because they hook so much in league around here. There's some places I think it would be fantastic,
to
but
be fair, it continues that and the proton physics for me anyway continue way better than I expected them to when the lanes are drier. Like as long as I can get my hand in a position where I can make it not just dart straight away. If you can get it, you can find a way to roll it a little bit. It actually goes through the pins way better than I kind of expected it to.
yeah, I'm seeing a lot of Zens around, so that one's an easy one to like. It actually didn't look great for me in Tampa, which is a little surprising for me, but it looked really good for a lot of other guys. So, what was the other question I saw up here that I like? Or me with the EPX. The EPX has had a spot, and it was at the Masters. Basically, it was in matches. It was an easy way to break a lane down, to change where we had to play, and I was able to use that to some advantage over the years. So the DCT, which is pretty new, also does a little bit of that, and it may, judging by practice yesterday, it may see an appearance at the stadium.
Kyle Sherman said on his blog from the Summer Swing in Chicago that your success said that you didn't have success because you weren't drilling enough balls. I think he was being facetious. But
you're not in Simo's range,
but the less games you bowl, the less balls you need to drill.
If you're not making the finals, it cuts down pretty significantly on.
And if you're if you're kind of out the wood before the last block, you also don't need to drill for that one either. So that really cuts down on how many balls you need to drill. Trust me, my wife doesn't think I don't drill enough balls.
One of the things, like the TOC, when you bowl in the same pattern 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 blocks in a row, you can drill a fair amount of balls to try and, because you have an idea what you're going to see. When you change the pattern every single block, which is kind of what we do now, there's not nearly the amount of time or need because you're starting over again the next day each time. So, I think that cuts down on the number of balls pretty significantly until the finals. Oh, any question I see with Alan Riley, I don't even.
Question for things. Question for Chris. What things, takeaways from bowling league with our team at Louisville will you take out west? A spare game, jog strap? Joking, not really. Bowl well out there.
Yeah. Mostly it's the fact that it never ceases to amaze me at how much throwing a double gives you confidence on the internet.
Oh man,
he does win though because he's the only guy that's lost more weight than you in the last year.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure that's not true.
No, you had no chance against him in a sumo contest.
No. What I'm saying is, I'm sure he's not the only one who's like. There's a lot of people who've lost weight in our in the old COVID times. All right. Well,
I owe Alan an apology because I pretty much, I probably cost his team a solid $10 in the final payout by losing some points. But to be fair, in the card game and then the getting hung thing, I ended up paying about $20 in dollar fines for the night. So, it's the first time that league cost me more to bowl than it would have if I just paid myself. So it was a good night.
Yeah. Did they have brackets at Louisville when you bowl league?
They did. I had already predetermined my mindset wasn't quite right to grind out a league. Yeah. That league too, it's not exactly a gimme. You have Chapman, both Laveries, Dimitri Cruz, Master Champion Ken Johnson bowls in that league. And Alan Riley, I mean, he's back up to average 198. So, I mean, he's actually, he led our team. He shot like 680. I'm just so disappointed in myself right now. Yeah, no, there's a lot of good bowlers in the league. So showing up and just getting in brackets and going, yeah, I'll just run this over. Yeah, it doesn't really work like that. That doesn't even count on the left-handers. Scott Knack,
Yeah.
Ryan Grange. Yeah.
I do have to defend myself a little bit because Tina came after me there about not everybody bowls league at Highland, suggesting that they were quite easy at Highland, which they are. But everybody told me that they were quite difficult at Louisville and whatever. I averaged 249 at Louisville. I've only bowled 1 6-game block, but I do average 249.
It's pretty good. Every time I bowl with him, he shoots 700. I don't know what he's talking about. He looks like he's bowling great. So, yes.
Now, Chris is still in a good mood this week. We sold more Beef and Barnzy merch.
Yep. Go to coolwick.com. Actually, Barnzy.com, and then that'll take you to Coolwick. you can buy Beef and Barnzy.
You can buy Beef and Barnzy jerseys, but if you go on beefandbarnzy.com right now, check out the joggers, the hoodies, new range of t-shirts. Click on the left side, click on the shop. That'll take you in there. We've got some Chris Barnes' new jersey there. He's quite proud of it. We now have double shirts. We've both got a black and teal one. I'm hoping that mine's at Chris's house.
It is.
I'm hoping he's
smaller than mine.
I was about to say, hopefully he's going to bring it.
It's up for debate, but you did leave your car, so
yeah. It doesn't seem like that's a bad trade-off. You bring a one jersey to the Masters, and I leave my car there. Yeah, it seems like an okay deal.
I think I won. Yeah, it's the only win I have this year, so we'll keep that. I'm going to ride with that.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We will try and figure out what we're going to do while we're at the Masters. Probably won't have shows, but we might try and put something together.
We are on opposite squad. A little tricky.
Cliff suggesting you should try and get your league losses back in the card game.
No, I don't think Stu's going to be my thing. I did fill up his car. That's the extent of my expenses so far, and it gets about 800 miles a gallon, so it's not bad. We'll figure out a time. I don't know. Well, if it goes like it has the last couple times, we can do it while they're going match play. But
yeah, we're not going with that now, Chris. 64 people are making match play. We're making that,
and you and I have pretty good records at the Masters over the years. I think I've missed 2 in about 30 years, and I don't plan on making that number any bigger. I've had about enough.
We've it doesn't work out good having extra days off, especially when what's the point? We might as well make the cut. We've got to be there anyway. It's not like we can go home early.
No, getting home from Reno sucks. So
we've got to wait around for the US Open. Unless we decide it was so bad, we're just going to leave.
I'm heading to Fort Myers now.
I might go too, just in case he wants to run a $20 sleeper.
All right. Well, with that, support those small businesses out there in those bowling centers. Help them get through this tough time. And as usual, if you can support, when you have a choice, support the sponsors that support us. Storm, Rotogrip, Matter Global, Vice Turbo, Coolwick, 3D Shoes, Master Bowlers Mart, and Mark Baker Bowling. Big thanks to all of them for helping us out. And we'll try and get something together for you next week or some kind of update that we can post at least on the Masters and the U.S. Open. And until then, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.